All right. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining the podcast and listening in. Again, I'm talking all direct to seller marketing on these podcasts. And today I have Jake Klein with me. He's down in St. Augustine, Florida. He started real estate investing in 2019 and has built his business since, focused on direct to seller marketing. So we're going to go through his business, talk to him a little bit about how he got started, how he transitioned into direct to seller, and where his business is at today, and any feedback and advice he can provide on getting started. So thank you so much and welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here for sure.
Great. All right, so let's just kick it off. Just give us an intro, give us a little background of yourself and even how you got even started with real estate and why you wanted to get into real estate.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of just an interesting way that I got into real estate. I started my own business when I was 19. So this is my first business that I had ever done in the e-cig industry, vaping related. And, was basically cold calling manufacturers and kind of watching like Grant Cardone on YouTube of sales training and stuff like that. And, kind of the YouTube algorithm got me with some other real estate people and, got interested in wholesaling. And really that's kind of what got me, interested. I started cold calling, just court records. I'd find like my county court records and call through people who were on the pre-foreclosure list or whatever. And, I ended up popping a deal within like the first month, just off of like cold calling. And
That's amazing.
yeah, I know, right? Like how lucky thinking about it. But I mean, back in 2019, like you could definitely kind of throw a pin and hit a deal. So yeah, I think I made 20 on the first deal that I ever did, off of cold calling. And I treated that deal like it was my baby until it closed. I was like, holding on to that thing for dear life. I was like, it's so funny. I literally drove by the property like, 4 or 5 times a week until it closed, just because I was like, I just want to control this and make sure it gets closing,
Yeah.
Basically once that happened, I was like, all right, this is the business that I had in the vape industry. I was like hand twisting these little coils, and selling them. And I was like, man, this makes up for months worth of, full time doing the vape stuff. So just kind of jumped right into it from there. And, here we are.
Interesting. So you started off, how did you even know to like cold call? How did you know like where to pull a list? Like how did you even get
Yeah.
started? Like I know that you said that the algorithm through Facebook, you found real estate investing, but how did you even learn to start cold calling and like what to do?
Well, I mean, so my mom actually worked for like a land planner in the past. And like, I was always kind of interested in what she did. She worked for a land planner, which land planners work for real estate developers, and obviously real estate developers are like, the morphed version of what you and I do in, flipping houses and stuff. So, she kind of knew the same realm of like how those guys found deals. And when we were talking about it, she was like, basically, here's how you get onto the court records website. I studied that kind of like the back of my hand. And just use my cell phone. And like I think I used like free people search online or something, and I just figured it out. Like now there's so much information out there where it just tells you do this, and do this, and then you've got somebody on the phone. But I mean, more than anything, it was just figure it out, of how to do it. So there wasn't necessarily a blueprint until I really got into it and like, paid for coaching basically.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. That's great because I think a lot of people try to focus so much on like I need to learn all of this, everything before I get
Yeah,
started.
it's
And they
so
don't realize like you don't need the 5 steps ahead of you. Just figure out step one is who to call, how to get their numbers, and just start dialing. And you
Yeah.
don't need to know everything else. So once you did start making the calls, like, how did you know what was a deal? Like, did you run comps? Did you like, how did you figure that out? I'm sure maybe your mom like assisted or helped out, or
No, like other than just finding the data, that was pretty much it. I think, I don't know, it just kind of made sense to me. You look at what other stuff is sold for, and then, kind of figure out a price of what you would need to buy it for and what I thought another investor would pay for it, you know? And I mean, I ended up underselling the deal by probably 20K. Like I got it for 55. I think I sold it for maybe 80. So I think I made 25. And I could have sold it for, 100. And I mean, today I wish I would have held on to it.
yeah,
Obviously,
I'm sure.
yeah. So like I think it was just more than anything, like just kind of figuring it out. I mean, if I were to tell somebody what to do now, I would just look at what has other stuff sold for, like for like, is it a 3-bed? Is it a 2-bath? Then you find another 3-bed, 2-bath, similar square footage, and you know, what are the repairs, and kind of work it back. And an investor's looking to make 25%. So yeah, I
How'd
mean,
you find the and how'd you find the buyer?
well, I think maybe at this point I had gone to some kind of meetup. Once I got that deal, I was like, I need to find out how to get rid of this thing. And like I went to some kind of like local meetup,
Yep.
um and met someone who introduced me to someone who bought in that area. So another situation of like, just figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Um, like you get into that situation where you've got to make a move, and then it just happens, like you figure it out.
Yeah. Love it,
Um,
man.
yeah,
That I love hearing that because it's just the mentality of like, okay, this is what I have to do. This is how I need to execute and just get it done. Like
yeah.
that's just the next step. Very cool. So all right. So you started off cold calling. You got your first deal. So then what? Like, were you looking to ramp things up? Did you prove the concept and say, okay, now I'm going to just spend all my time cold calling? Did you
Mhm.
start like looking at other areas to do other sort of like marketing channels? Take us through that progression.
Yeah, I think it's I started, I got a VA actually after that. After that deal closed, I was like, okay, well, how do I reinvest this and do this more, right? Um, and I mean, I had a little bit of business experience before, but not really much. I mean, um, so I found, a virtual assistant. I think somebody I knew at that time had recommended to me, like, hey, you go on Upwork and you find a virtual assistant, and then
Hmm.
I made a process, and documented every step of how do you find these records online, put them into an Excel sheet, and then send them to me, and then we're going to send letters to them, you know, and I think I started with, just one county of like court records on a weekly basis, and I was actually writing them out myself. So I was like literally writing letters and signing it at the bottom with my hand. And it's so funny how I, ended up using that on a large scale, the same thing. But
Yeah.
it worked really well, Um, I mean, I don't know how many deals I got over what kind of period of time, but it was enough that I knew, like, okay, let's ramp this up,
Hmm.
and do this same thing on a larger scale. And at that time, I think I had gotten into mastermind with Ryan Dawsey, who's a good friend of mine now,
Yep.
really good guy, and basically, learned more about direct mail through them, and kind of dug more into that, the process. And I think 2020, I did 60 deals or something like that, wholesale deals, basically by myself. Um,
It's
and
amazing. Dude,
yeah,
that's good for you. Congratulations. That's amazing. From starting in 2019 to doing 60 deals the next year. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of like, I mean, it was just my 100% my life, of just learning what different situations are, like title stuff. I mean, just kind of learned the whole deal, by once again, I mean, I'll say this a million times, just figure it out. Like
Yeah.
you deal under contract and it's like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out one step at a time to get it to close. And like, you know, that's how I've learned everything. I don't have a college degree or anything, of that sort. Um, just experience.
Yeah. What drove you to direct? So I know you shifted to like cold calling to direct mail. What got
Mhm.
you interested in direct mail and saying, "Hey, this is the avenue that I want to go"? Because the big thing for people is like, that I always mention to people is like, whatever marketing channel you go with, you need to make sure that you're just consistent and it works for you.
Yeah.
So you talk to us a little bit about like how you felt like direct mail was the option that you wanted to go with.
I think it was, I'd heard, people doing it, right? And it's, seemed more attractive than sitting there on the phone and just calling people.
Hmm.
And once I started getting the leads in from direct mail, it was like, okay, this is a lot more pleasant of an experience than, getting yelled at and hung up on all the time. Um, you know, Obviously I wouldn't have gotten my first deal and got into the business without it, but it just started to made more sense when I started to do it. Um, Obviously a lot more scalable too, like you can just do a lot more of
Hmm.
it as you just spend more money and send more of them out. Um, and I mean it made sense that basically handwriting something, it's going to be a personal note, that I would open it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep. What did so with when you're marketing or mailing, how are you pulling your lists? Like where are you what types of lists are you pulling? Do you do like list stacking, stuff like that?
sure.
Do you refresh your lists? Are you always mailing to the same people over and over? Can you go into that little detail?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I like now there's a lot more robust of a process for what we're doing than when I first started. But first starting out, I think it was just buying list off of list source or using prop stream and then obviously clean that data up. And I think I was just keeping a bunch of Excel sheets at first, and it's just like mail it out, and then like I'm keeping a little tally of like, hey, I mailed this characteristic, this time, and then later on I found it was REI Sift that I started using to manage data, right? So like list stacking and being able to track, the return to senders. So when those come back in, we mark it and say, okay, we basically don't want to mail this again. Marking the properties that are sold, and then all the lists that we do mail now, depending on what type of list, there's different cadences that we do.
Hmm.
So like, those court record lists that we do, they're hit on a schedule. And then, we do a lot of mobile home flips now. So I hit like specific areas, that have that property characteristic that we want. So 1990 and newer mobile homes on 1 acre or more, we hit those like all the time. We're just
Hmm.
consistently hitting those because I have the data now to say like, okay, this is, where our money is going to be best spent because we want to flip these in the first place. So, um, yeah, I mean, we don't really wholesale anything anymore. It's basically all flipping. Um,
Oh well. Okay.
yeah,
What
yeah.
what made that shift for you?
Well, I mean, what I will say is, wholesaling is like just it's the way to get into this whole thing. I mean, that's how, you know, to learn everything, with having relatively minimal risk. But getting into flipping, like I kind of like the operational side of things, and we have in-house crews now, like 6 in-house crews where, these are basically our employees that go on a job and finish it start to finish. So, we've almost got like a construction company as well, in addition to kind of the acquisition side. But, what got me into that? I mean, I was finding really good deals on mobile homes where nobody would want to buy it. And I'm like, why am I like selling this at like 65% of ARV when I could be making 50K a pop, flipping them and
Yeah.
doing, less marketing to make more money, you know. So that's kind of where it turned to. And now it's like it's almost kind of like a lazy thing. Like it's easier to flip a property than it is to wholesale because we've got
Yeah.
a good process in place. So it's like might as well just close on it and flip it instead of like going to hunt around for a buyer and get jerked around and all that, you know.
Yeah, I I think that is the best way to be able to rehab your own deals. Because when I got started, I
Yeah.
rehabbed and never wholesaled, and then I only added wholesaling in because I was getting more deals than I could flip, and instead
Right.
of not
Right.
doing knowing not doing much with them, I was like, and then I saw the return on my time because I
Right.
didn't have in-house crews or anything like you do. But yeah, to what you're saying, like if you have an operation that's built out that you own in-house, flipping all day long makes it so much
Yeah.
easier. It's just a process, operational process. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. So you even built out a construction side of the business, which to
Mhm.
me is always the most challenging when working with like external contractors and vendors.
Yeah, definitely. And like people like told me for a while like that, I was wasting my time by spending so much time building that construction side up, and I kind of just stuck to my gut feeling that like this is, maybe today I'm not making the most amount of money I could because, I could be wholesaling or whatever, but like investing that time into the construction side is like paid off's huge, where now we're about to start, we're targeting a bunch of land, to buy and, put new mobile homes on land, which is even easier than flipping, and
Yeah,
good numbers. And then, start building some new construction houses, build to rent, because that's the only way the numbers work in, Northeast Florida. Um, so yeah,
that's incredible.
it's been
Yeah.
it's been pretty crazy on the construction side. I mean, and like the marketing that I've learned in real estate, like we could open a roofing company and do the same sort of marketing and crush it. It's just
Yeah.
like got to stay focused on one thing, until it's, where we want it to be. Um, but
Yeah.
there's a lot more to come.
So what like give us an idea of like volume. You kind of explained a little bit what you're doing right now, but give us an explanation of like volume for this year and what you're doing for marketing to get that volume.
Yeah. So I've seen things shift a little bit. I mean, being a legitimate buyer where people in our area know that like, hey, like I'll buy something sight unseen, and close ASAP, like 10 days. Um, there's been more and more like referrals and wholesaler deals that we've got, so buying stuff from other people. Um, but so far this year we've bought 55 properties, maybe a couple more because that was a few days ago that I checked on that. So the goal this year was to buy 100 properties. So not 100 deals, it was to actually buy 100 properties. And on track for that.
Yeah, I
And that's a
think you're right on the
huge
money.
increase from last year. I think we did like 65. So that's a massive increase from what we did last year. Um, and definitely have had some kinks with, trying to crank up the volume and paying more for hard money and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting for sure.
And on the marketing side, like what are you doing like for volume? For I know you have some like referrals and things outside that are coming into your plate, like some deals coming into you, not including
Mhm.
marketing. But where are you right now for like volume?
Um, you know, to I think I was actually looking at it earlier today. I know that like to date this year, we've spent about $180,000 in marketing.
Okay.
So, that's I could imagine that's what people want to hear is like, what are you spending? How much are you spending for how much you're returning? You
Yeah,
know, like the return on that spend is probably about 12x. Um,
that's amazing.
so, but it's because we're flipping. I mean, if we were wholesaling, it'd probably be like six,
Yep.
on the high end.
Yeah.
Um, but and I'd say 80% of that is direct mail. And we're using a you know envelope with an insert, that looks like it's a real handwritten piece. Like pretty expensive piece of mail, compared to what's out there. But really the secret is kind of like in the data and the data management.
Hmm.
Because you can just blow money if you're not managing your data right. So yeah.
I I completely agree. I think the one of the most underutilized things is people learning data and understanding where they're getting it, because so many people spend so much money on properties or records that are just the data's crap and
Yeah.
it's not a great list, and they don't like list stack or do anything special to the data, but just market to everyone the same exact way, and
Yeah.
they don't really hone in on the best quality prospects to spend their marketing dollars. So that's great to hear. So you're doing about 100. You've done about 180K to date. I'm trying to like put that in terms of like monthly volume, so people have a sense. But so we're
But
what,
I mean,
seven,
yeah, it's about 30K a month.
30K a month. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
in marketing, which there's been a couple months where we've been at like 50, and then a couple months that we're, so it's not completely uniform across the board. I think
Hmm.
January, February was lower because, you know, um, I don't know. I probably don't do things the right way, and I'll really crank things up when we need deals. Like I'll
Yeah,
just rip like a 50K a month in marketing, and then like we'll get swamped with deals, and then I'll slow it down and then crank it back up. So I don't suggest doing that, but that's kind of where the undulation has come from with that.
got it. And now, do you have a team? Do you have like an acquisitions team as well, and like people answering calls and all that?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I would not, I don't think I just can't do it, man. Yeah. So we've got two lead managers and two acquisition managers. So four people on that side. And what that looks like for us is the lead managers are very, very highly qualified for their position. So the lead managers are really filtering that stuff through. And we use
Hmm.
our acquisition managers basically to only be talking to like highly qualified prospects. So what I've noticed in the industry that's pretty standard is like anybody that says yes, I want to sell ends up speaking to an acquisition manager. And where we have it set up basically where there's a bunch more questions other than do you want to sell? It's are they meeting our certain criteria to have that conversation? Is it a
Yeah.
closable opportunity right now? Um, and outside of those appointments for the acquisition managers, they're working with wholesalers and all that kind of stuff too.
That's cool. I can't, like, you're saying all these little nuanced things, and I don't know if other people are picking it up, but to scale how quickly you've scaled and to have a team built out in a construction company built out while you're scaling, dude, that's pretty incredible. Congratulations. That's pretty amazing.
Thanks, man.
I'm
Yeah, I
sure you were
appreciate
investing a ton of your time on systems and process and stuff like that. There's so many like things that, scaling sounds amazing, but it's
it.
one of the most friggin' challenging things in the world, because you have one little issue and then you start looking to scale, that issue becomes massive and you have huge
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that in a systematic way and to bring on such a large team when you just got into real estate in like 2019, that's pretty incredible with, like you said, not a lot of business background. I mean, that's a huge feat to overcome. So well done, man. Well done.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man.
Um, so we're in kind of an interesting economy right now, right? Shifting and not sure. Some people say we're going one way. Some people say that we're not going to do anything for a little bit.
Yeah.
But has that affected you at all with your like thinking about marketing in your business in the next 6 to 12 months? Are you thinking about any adjustments on the direct to seller side, any exit strategy side, anything like that?
I always think of the Warren Buffett quote. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's basically people, when people are fearful, get greedy,
Yep.
is basically the principle behind it. And like, in my career, that has, paid dividends to follow that, through like COVID, like everyone was just crushing it during COVID. I mean, we're in
Yeah.
Northeast Florida. So like I'm near Jacksonville, which is probably one of the, most poppin' areas in the country. And I would say I'm very bullish right now. I'm going hard on marketing, buying stuff, not afraid of really anything. We're just being more careful with our numbers and being more strict. Basically buying at 70%.
Hmm.
So, you know, I would say that's always been conservative, for us is like, hey, we're doing off, direct to seller marketing. So we need to get really good deals. Like I'm not buying at 80% and flipping to make 20K. We're, doing big spread deals. Um, and, I sleep great at night thinking that. It's just when, all the money gets tied up in too many properties, that's the stress.
Yeah.
It's not, are we going to make money? It's like,
Cash
okay,
flow management.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
like, I'm sure you know about that, but like at the scale that we're doing it, it's like
Yes.
it's pretty intense. Yeah,
100%. Cash flow management is another thing that if you don't know, like financials and cash and like what you're doing with the project and where the money's coming from and overestimating and going over budget, like those are critical components. Again, to the point of like scaling, like, you go a little bit over one project, okay, like you can probably figure out how to get some money. You go over with when you're scaling with 20 projects, it's like, holy shit, this is a
yeah,
much bigger thing that we need to think about. So,
yep.
yeah, that's it's impressive. Um, so last question I have for you is any suggestions or advice to people either just starting out in real estate or thinking about getting into like direct to seller marketing? Any advice that you'd give to them?
Honestly, like I can't stress it enough. I would just say just do something. Like don't you're listening to this podcast right now, literally right now, do something. Like go make some calls, order some mail, like buy a list, do something. Like I had to do some sort of buy-in myself. So I had to invest something into what I was doing to kind of urge myself into it. So I would encourage anybody to just have some level of buy-in where, there's leverage to keep you moving forward, because like you can listen to a podcast like this. I do the same thing is, listen to a podcast, get fired up, about some guy's story and, like, oh man, I'm ready to go. And then, 2 hours later, it's like sitting on the couch, like
Yeah.
watching TV. So like right now, do something. And I'm sure either one of us would be happy to help anybody who's trying to get into this business. I just yeah,
Absolutely.
can't urge you enough to do something.
Yeah, completely agree. And is there a place that people can go to learn more about you or see what you do?
Honestly, I'm not like a big like social media guy. Like I don't have anything to sell or anything like that. I just kind of do my own deal. But I have Instagram if anybody wants to check that out. I literally got to check my phone to see what it is. Um, yeah,
I'm kind of I've been the same way with the Instagram and social. I really haven't posted all that much.
yeah.
But again, that's probably the best way for people to just check it out and see kind of what you're doing.
Well, it's generally the most legit operators who are not spending their time on social media. Like, you and I don't have time to be posting these like edited videos and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
but it's J Klein, JKLINE underscore REI is my Instagram. Um, yeah, I mean, hit me up, follow me on there. There's not a whole lot of real estate stuff, but if reach out, I'll do anything I can to help you.
Awesome. All right, Jake. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Amazing story. Like really, I'm so surprised at what I heard. It's really, really incredible what you've built. Again, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it and sharing your story.
Yeah, man. Nice to chat for a little bit.
Absolutely.